Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again to plunge into a topic you probably think you've got pegged, only to find out there's, well, a whole lot more beneath the surface. Today, it's all about carbohydrates, carbs, often just seen as diet food, or maybe just sugar. But what if the real story is way more complex, and actually pretty fascinating? Our mission today: to really unpack the sources you sent us, digging into this hidden world of carbohydrates. We're going from their basic building blocks, these tiny molecules, all the way to, well, some really unexpected and vital roles they play. In our bodies, sure, but also in medicine, energy tech, even deciding your blood type. Yeah, the sources all point to carbs being these organic molecules, right? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, usually in something like a 1.2.1 ratio. And okay, yes, energy is the big headline, but we're going to find out they do so much more structurally and functionally in, well, basically all living things. Okay, let's unpack this. So yeah, most people hear carbs and immediately think energy, which is fair. They pack about 4 kilocalories per gram when your body breaks them down. That process, catabolism, basically breaking stuff down for energy, makes glucose a key carb absolutely vital. It's the main fuel, especially for really demanding places like your brain and your red blood cells too. But that's really just scratching the surface, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's just the start. What's fascinating here is how much else they do beyond just immediate fuel. Take energy storage, for example. In us, in animals, we store excess glucose as glycogen. Mostly hangs out in liver and muscles. Plants do something similar with starch.
Right. So like when you haven't eaten for a while.
Exactly.
Right.
During fasting, your body taps into that stored glycogen, breaks it down nice and steady to keep your blood sugar stable, keeps everything running smoothly. And then there's structure. Huge structural roles. Think about cellulose. It's the main stuff in plant cell walls.
Giving plants their rigidity.
Precisely. It's what lets them stand tall and strong. It is a carbohydrate. Or consider chitin.
Keton, like in crab shells?
Well, crab shells, insect exoskeletons, lobsters, that hard outer layer, that's chitin, a really tough carb. You also find it in fungi cell walls. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Cell recognition and signaling.
Okay. How does that work?
Well, imagine your cells need to talk to each other.
Right.
Identify self from non-self. A lot of that happens via glycoproteins and glycolipids.
Glyco, meaning sugar, attached to proteins and fats.
You got it. Carbohydrates attached to proteins or lipids right there on the cell surface. And a fantastic example is human blood groups. A, B, O.
Seriously, blood type is about carbs.
Fundamentally, yes. Tiny differences in the carbohydrate chains on your red blood cells dictate whether you're A, B, AB, or O. It's incredibly specific and obviously crucial for blood transfusions. They're also key metabolic intermediates, little molecules that pop up in the middle of biochemical reactions, like glucose 6-phosphate. It's a major player in pathways like glycolysis for energy and the pentose phosphate pathway for building blocks.
Wow.
And of course, we can't skip dietary fiber, things like cellulose again, or pectin from fruits. These are carbs our bodies can't digest.
But they're still important.
Hugely important for gut health, keeping things moving, and they also help regulate blood sugar by kind of slowing down how quickly you absorb other sugars.
It's amazing, really. One type of molecule, CHO, doing all this different stuff. So to get a better handle on this, we need to look at how they're built, right? Our sources classify them by size, by these sugar units. I like your Lego bricks analogy, starting simple and building up. Here's where it gets really interesting. How do these blocks stack up?
Yeah, the Lego idea works well. So the simplest ones, the single bricks, are monosaccharides. The basic formula is CH euro, where N is usually between 3 and 7 carbons. They have characteristic properties. They dissolve in water. They usually taste sweet. They're chemically reducing, and they show optical activity. They bend light in a certain way.
Okay, and the famous ones.
Right. You've got glucose, main energy source, especially for the brain, red blood cells, fructose, that's fruit sugar, also in honey, very common sweetener, galactose, which is part of milk sugar, and ribose, which is absolutely crucial. It's part of nucleotides, the building blocks of DNA and RNA. It's in the backbone of RNA itself.
Found in fruits, honey, milk. Okay, got it. Simple sugars. What's next? 2 bricks.
Yeah, exactly. Disaccharides. 2 monosaccharides joined together by what's called a glycosidic bond. These are also soluble in water. We can digest them, and their sweetness varies.
And these are ones we definitely know, like sucrose.
That's the one. Glucose plus fructose. Good old table sugar from sugar cane or sugar beets.
And lactose milk sugar. That's glucose plus galactose, right?
Correct. And maltose, which is 2 glucose units linked up. You find that in malt, used in brewing beer and other things.
Okay, monos, dis. What comes after 2?
Oligosaccharides. These are short chains, usually between 3 and 10 sugar units long. Oligo means few. Often you find these attached to proteins or lipids on cell surfaces, doing important signaling jobs like we mentioned with glycoproteins.
Oh, okay.
What's really neat about many oligosaccharides is that we can't really digest them well with our own enzymes, but our gut bacteria can. They ferment them. This makes many of them prebiotics. Food for the good bacteria.
Like raffinose? I think I've heard of that one. In beans, maybe.
Exactly. Raffinose in beans is a classic example. It promotes a healthy gut microbiome. Same with fructooligosaccharides, or FOS. You see those added to foods sometimes for gut health.
Right.
And there's also maltodextrose, a 3-glucose unit, which pops up during starch digestion.
Okay, so single units, pairs, short chains. Leads us to the big ones.
The big ones. Polysaccharides. Poly meaning many. More than 10 units, often hundreds or thousands. These are our giant Lego structures. They can be long, straight chains like cellulose or really branched like glycogen. Generally, they're tasteless, don't dissolve well in water, and how well we digest them varies a lot. If we connect this to the bigger picture.
These are the complex carbohydrates people talk about, right?
That's them. Key example, starch, the main way plants store energy, the potatoes, rice, wheat, glycogen, how we store energy, mainly liver and muscles. Cellulose, the plant structural material we talked about, vital dietary fiber for us. And chitin again for exoskeletons and fungi. It really shows the spectrum, from simple sugars providing quick energy to these massive molecules providing structure or long-term storage.
Okay, so we've seen they're vital for energy, structure, signaling, storage. Incredible versatility. So what does this all mean beyond our own biology and the food we eat? How else are these carbs used, like in industry or other applications?
That's a great question because their reach is, well, surprisingly wide. Let's start with the food industry. Beyond just sweetness sucrose, fructose are huge as thickeners and stabilizers.
Like in sauces or yogurt.
Exactly. Pectin from fruit, gar gum, these are carbs used to get the right texture. And of course, added dietary fibers often carbohydrate-based. Then, pharmaceuticals. This is pretty cutting edge. They're using carbs in drug delivery. Chitosan, which comes from chitin.
From the crab shells.
Yeah, is biocompatible, so it's being looked at for delivering drugs more effectively.
Okay.
And really importantly, carbohydrate antigen-specific sugar structures are key components in some vaccines, like pneumococcal vaccines that protect against bacterial infections. The immune system recognizes the carb signature.
Wow. Okay.
Then there's biofuel, turning cellulose and starch into bioethanol. The potential environmental upside is huge. Our sources mention reducing greenhouse gases by potentially up to 86% compared to fossil fuels.
That's massive. But it's not quite mainstream yet.
Right. There are still challenges. Making it cost-effective, scaling up production efficiently, those are hurdles they're actively working on.
Makes sense.
Medically, besides vaccines, think heparin. It's a complex polysaccharide, a carbohydrate used all the time as an anticoagulant to prevent blood clots. Super important.
Right?
And there's this whole field, glycobiology. It's studying sugars in biology. They're looking at how targeting specific carbohydrate structures on cancer cells might lead to new treatments.
Fast.
And industrially, well, cellulose is the backbone of paper and textiles. And you're seeing more starch-based bioplastics, biodegradable alternatives to traditional plastics. So yeah, carbs are playing a role in sustainability efforts too.
It's genuinely impressive. They're just woven into so much of modern life, not just our diets. To really bring this home, let's maybe look at a couple of specific examples, some case studies from the sources you shared.
Good idea. First up, high fructose corn syrup, HFCS. It's been in the spotlight for a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely linked to debates about obesity and metabolic issues.
Exactly. There's research, like a 2010 study, that found rats on HFCS gained significantly more weight than rats on sucrose, even when the calorie intake was similar. That kind of finding really fueled concerns and led to discussions about reformulation and public health guidance.
And that really highlights the point that not all carbs are the same, right? It's not just carbs bad. It's about the type of carb, how it's processed, how much you consume.
Precisely. It's nuanced. Which brings us to the second case. Cellulose for biofuels. We touched on it. The potential is huge. That 86% greenhouse gas reduction is a big number.
But the challenges remain.
Yes. Cost and scalability are the big ones. It shows how promising science sometimes bumps up against economic and engineering realities. It's a work in progress.
Okay, and maybe one more, something from the medical side.
Let's look at glycoconjugate vaccines. A great example is P13, the pneumococcal vaccine, often known as Prevnar 13.
For kids, right, protects against pneumonia, meningitis.
That's the one. And the impact has been dramatic. Sources like The Lancet reported around a 50–70% drop in invasive pneumococcal disease after its introduction. That's a massive public health win, especially for kids. It really underlines how harnessing these carbohydrate structures can save lives.
Yeah, really does.
This raises an important question, though. If we can engineer these sugar structures so precisely for vaccines, what else could we do? What other medical breakthroughs might be possible as we get better at understanding and manipulating these complex carbs?
That's quite a thought. So we started thinking carbs were just energy, maybe simple sugars. But they're architects, messengers, energy vaults, even key players in advanced medicine and potentially sustainable fuels. Way more than just a food group.
Absolutely. If we boil it down, the key things to remember are monosaccharides, your basic fuel, building blocks. Disaccharides, common sugars in our diet, like table sugar, milk sugar. Oligosaccharides, important for gut health as prebiotics and for cell signaling. And polysaccharides, the big players for energy storage, starch, glycogen, and structure, cellulose, keton. Their roles are just incredibly diverse: food, health, industry, environment. They're fundamental.
And hopefully this deep dive gives you, our listener, that shortcut to really getting it. Those connections, those aha moments where you see how it all fits together.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Given just how fundamental and versatile these molecules are, what are the next big breakthroughs going to be? Where else might carbohydrates provide solutions? Maybe for sustainable energy, maybe for fighting new diseases in ways we haven't even fully grasped yet.
Something to chew on, for sure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly complex world of carbohydrates. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you on the next one.